I think we can start. But still some people coming. Let's start. So first, welcome in this session. And I would like to invite the first speaker, Katja, about the Ecoduct working in a cross-border fragmentation. So welcome. This is yours.
Thank you.
The stage is yours.
Is it on?
Okay.
Is it okay?
Yes.
Good morning, everybody. It was a short coffee break. Sorry, not my fault. I will tell you the story about the Ecoduct Kempengrens. And some people are already laughing, and I can understand because this is maybe a familiar project of some of you, and some of you even visited this Ecoduct during the IENE conference in Eindhoven in 2018. For the others, welcome to the stop. So, this picture you have seen already a few times, I can imagine. But it is to show that landscape fragmentation is a big issue in the countries of the Netherlands and even more. So we are situated here. We have a lot of transport infrastructures and also a lot of civilizations, a lot of buildings. There's hardly an open space found. So both countries are building defragmentation measures now. In the Netherlands, I think Hans since the early 90s, something like that. And in Belgium since 2005, 2006. So we have quite some ecoducts. But this one, Ecoduct Kempengrens, is a special one because it is built on the borders of the Netherlands and Belgium. To be honest, it is built in Belgium. But that was because purely of financial reasons. Things are a bit cheaper in Belgium and sometimes done also a bit easier. The name itself, it explains a lot. Kempengrens, grens meaning border. Kempen is the name of the region. Simple like that. Here are some facts and figures. So it's built on the border, 2 highways, and it is linking important natural areas in both countries. It was constructed in 2014. It's a quite large structure, so it's big ecoduct, 60 meters at the top, widening to 80 meters at the base. And the span, so that's the over the highway is 55 meters. Of course, it is fenced in both countries, so on both sides of the highway, and also crossing the border. And the cost is also. It was the first international Ecoduct Kempengrens in 2012. Luckily, I heard this morning there are now more cross-border defragmentation projects like this. But then it was the first. So we received quite a lot of international recognition, also at the IENE platform. We had a poster award, and in 2014, it was finished, we got the IENE project award because of that cross-border fragmentation and also linking not only nature, but also policy of 2 different countries. Okay, then we start building the ecoduct, and of course we try to attract as many animals as possible. So we designed it in a way that there are 5 types of ecotypes, from very grassy vegetation, open sands, but also wet moist vegetation, some shelter, let's say something for everyone. We add some extra elements, a gabion wall, for example, to attract sun-loving species such as reptiles, insects, stumps and logs. That's a very good idea to attract animals, but also to give them some shelter to hide. Large water bodies, always a good idea to attract animals to an aqueduct, especially amphibians and insects. And even there was a bat cellar for bats, of course. It was constructed in one of the slopes, and it is probably a wintering object. Okay, looks nice, okay, but does it work? Therefore, we started previously, so before building the aqueduct, we started a previous study to survey the natural values in the surroundings. And that we call T0. So let's say T is the time of building the aqueduct. The survey before it is T. We used some reference plots in the neighborhoods of the future aqueduct in a radius of 1 kilometer around it, and for a wide range of target species to see what's living there, see abundance, so to see what is our main target species. And we focused especially on reptile sites in the area of 1 kilometer, the radius of 1 kilometer. And what we have at that moment, so in 2012, we see the green dots are lizard spots. So we have common lizard already quite near the future aqueduct. But the smooth snake was just outside still and only in that. Okay, and then we thought, okay, smooth snake, it's a good example of a target species for that place because it has high habitat requirements. It's highly sensitive to fragmentation, and it is an endangered species on the red list, but also on it's on the Annex 4 of the directive. Okay, in this study, we also gave some recommendations already to improve the functionality. Okay, so after the T0 situation, the aqueduct was built in 2014, and then we did 2 subsequent monitoring sessions, one in 2016, and another after 2 years after it was built, and another 8 years after the aqueduct was. Oh, sorry. Back. In 2016, see, we used a wide range of techniques, but just the usual techniques ranging from camera traps, pitfalls, sandbeds, everything you can imagine to monitor a wide range of animals. As our focus was on reptiles, the focus was also, of course, on this one, the snake blades. I don't know if everybody knows what the snake blades is. It's plastic, but it's a kind of blade to put on the ground, and reptiles, they like to warm up or to seek shelter under the space. And it's a very good way to monitor the species. Also, just targeted searches for the species by people who know species. It's very useful. Of course, we also look. I don't know. Okay, after 8 years, we repeated more or less the same monitoring as in 2016, but we added the new old school tracking. It's a very old method, just looking for footprints, hairs, droppings, whatever, markings, feeding, whatever. And okay, this survey was done on the Ecoduct and the surroundings during 1 year, every month. Yeah, it fits. What is this? It fits within the cyber tracking system. That means it's an evaluation system to check the knowledge of the trackers, because everybody can say, I really look at tracks, but no. So that's to be sure that it is done okay, and it was indeed a very valuable addition to this traditional cameras, because there you can just see the presence of an animal, but using the tracks, and this map shows the results for the roe deer. You can also see patterns in how they move, where they go. So that was nice. And we also found hairs of badger in that way, but we never saw a badger on the camera. So, okay. Old one. There are some global, sorry, 2 minutes. Oh, I have to go fast then. I will go. We started at 5 and 11. Okay. I will go very fast then. These are some results for all the groups of species. Most important things here are mentioned. So after 2, in the total of numbers, the bats mentioned also this morning by Margarita is a very important. Completely lost. Okay, it's very important to monitor bats. There are 12 species in total, 7 on the reptiles. So that's quite a lot. For the reptiles, we had only 1 species at the T0, and we had all 3 species. That may not sound a lot, but that's all we have. Okay, so we had all species after the 8 years of monitoring. 1 on the list. I will skip the ground beetles. It's a pity. Global results after 2 years. There was a rapid use by most of the species that we expected. So nice, but nothing special. We had 12 species of bats, 20 species of other animals, 7 species of animals, and that was due, amphibians, that was due to the ponds. All expected reptiles, including the smooth snake, and the Brachypterus invertebrates, that are invertebrates that have only short wings or no wings at all. Quite a lot of them. So an ecoduct is not only useful for large animals, but also very important for these kind of species. Also less mobile rare species. Okay, something about the smooth snake. I told you already about the blades, so we made some 32 blades that are the numbered dots during the 3 periods of monitoring, and we added an 18 extra on top of the and it was done very frequently during the activity season of the snakes. Okay, evolution of the smooth snake observations in 2012, none. Okay, yes, just outside the study area, so more than 1 kilometer. 2002, no smooth snakes near the equator. Nearest location, 1 kilometer away. 2022, 8 years after, we had three individuals on the northern slopes of the equator, and 1 at the south, 600 meters away from the equator. it was coming close. The monitoring program was stopped in 2022, but it was continued in a regular monitoring network afterwards. And 1 year later, so in 2023, we had 4 species in 4 individuals in the northern slope, 2 at the base of the aqueduct, the southern slope. We had some other advice too. I mentioned this, common lizard and slow fast to go. Now, mostly of them on the northern slopes of the that's because of the vegetation. It's more wooded. It's better in the north. 2 more minutes. Yes. Okay. So it was quite a success for the smooth snake. But we also did some, we have some initiatives to improve the functionality. So to make the smooth snake attract to the ecoduct. An important one, and I will keep to that, is conversion of farmland. Here, this one, that's a picture from 2016, to dry screen. And that was really fantastic. The topsoil was removed, so removing phosphorus and nitrogen, and it was something completely different afterwards. So this was really a great success. Also, some initiatives to connect the existing populations that are the blue spots here. So some in the Netherlands, some in Belgium. Then we improved the habitat and also corridors for storage. This is more or less the same, but in more detail. So I will skip that one, and we go to conclusions. Okay. I will make it. So we had the rapid colonization of the ecoduct. Also by heatland and species that are sensitive to fragmentation. A very nice one, ecoducts are suitable for passage of critical species, also for species. I say this in particular because there was quite a lot of skepticism from scientific people who have their doubts about its so I was very happy. But an important thing is also to focus on connectivity and measures to attract, especially that species to the if you listen to me well, I said we saw snakes on the slopes north, so that it's not really top. So now we hope to have some on top of the ecoduct, and that it is very possible because here, this that man over there, and we found a juvenile smooth snake on one of our other ecoducts only 4 years after it. So I will be very happy to see this. And then yes, the last one is one of my favorite things. It would be nice to add a population research based on individual recognition of animals, and that's perfectly possible with a species of smooth snakes because you recognize them. And then you can really see what species do the north, south are the same, are the unique. Okay, that's it. And now we have also this kind of species. It's a pity, but okay, we have to deal with this. This is just to say thank you to all the study. And this one speaks for itself. This man was on one of the camera traps. He was just walking across the I think. Okay. Thank you.
So thank you for your presentation. We could have one very quick question. So,
was 2022 and 2023, they were very dry years.
Yep,
so
that's correct. Yep.
Maybe this could have influenced your results
Yep.
in a negative way. So maybe maybe it would be better.
It can only be better, I think. But that's correct. Yeah, surely. Yeah. Because the ponds, you saw, these were pictures from a wet year, to be honest. Yeah. In this, it can be completely dry. Okay.
okay.
You
no
can
more-
ask me more questions. I'm here.
Okay, thank you. So I would like next speaker, please. It's Tamás from Hungary. He will present the characteristic of wildlife overpasses in Hungary.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be quick because I have 7 minutes. First, I am from Hungary. With my colleagues, we work with human-wildlife interactions, like effect of fencing, habitat fragmentation, human-wildlife in urban areas, conflicts. And today I would like to say some words about the wildlife overpasses. First, a little background, maybe the present work. Please, can I? Thank you. A little background. The Hungary total area is 93,000 square kilometer. The overall length of the highways and roadways is 2,500 kilometer, and the main roads are 7,000 kilometers, and 22 kilometers the length of the another roads. These numbers without the roads inside the settlements. The mostly traffic is somewhere over 20 million vehicles per month, and the wildlife vehicle collisions are increased. This number is only for the game species, the hunted game species, the data from Hungarian wildlife management database. And some words about the highways. The total length of highways increased very intensively in the last 15 years. You can see in the graph. And in the future is more dramatically, because there are a lot of new highways are planned to build. And the characteristic of our highways is twice two lanes with fencing. Fences are 2.2 meter high, and this fencing is isolated the habitat. This is a big problem for Hungarian wildlife management, because the estimated numbers in Hungary, the big games near 600,000 animals like red deer, roe deer, white boar, fallow deer, and so on. And this is problem for wildlife management, and it's problem for other species. We use different structures to solve the isolation problem. This is the smaller passage for reptiles, amphibians, and the small mammals. We use underpasses, and sometimes these underpasses are combined with the roads and rivers. And this is the typical view of Hungarian overpasses. And I would like to say some words about this type of constructions. We analyzed 57 overpasses in Hungary. The red dots shows the location. And you can see this is the new builded stage of highways. The older ones, see it's no underpasses, overpasses. We use Google Earth and Street View for analyzing, and a lot of overpasses were visited. We recorded 4 measurable parameters. We measure patterns for the design of wide overpasses. We analyze the location of the overpass. We generate a 500-meter radius buffer, and we use the ecosystem map of Hungary, and we use the past for statistical software. And, the measured parameters was the inner width. This is the inner width of the crossing that is suitable for the animals, like front corridor. And we measure the total width. This is the distance between the 2 other edges of the construction. We measure the total length of the crossing. This is the based on the distance between the 2 start of the access ramp. And we measure the length of the side screen or nose barrier where start and stop. And we calculate the width to length ratio for the E and the D value. Then some words about the results. The inner width was 15 meter in average, and the total width is 23 meter. We talk about why the difference is so big. And the total length of crossing was 56 meter, and the length of the screening was 100 meter. And the width and length ratio was 0.16. And you can see it's the Hungarian overpasses is very, very long and very small. The shape of the access ramp is connected to different shape. This is the straight design with the straight access ramp, and the other 2 is a hourglass shape and a semi-hill shape. It's a little bit. This was a little bit more than 50%, bit less than 50%. 4 type of vegetation or nose barrier or screening design was observed, and the first one is when they use vegetation only, and the second one the wood pile combined with some vegetation. The third one, the largest ratio is wood pile only, and the last one in only one case is the panels. And the nose barrier or screening design is was different. The right angled in 2 cases. It's the wood piles are running this shape. Second one, the straight, then the wood piles or vegetation running down the access ramp. The third one is the curved. It's a hourglass or semi-hill design, and the cathode is ended at the barriers. And some words about the location. In average, you can see the numbers, the average cover and the occurrence. You can see it's I think it's a little bit problem because we have problems because there are urban areas and other roads around the overpasses not so good because it can affect the use of animals. And this another cover is show a very big variation. We create a cluster analysis, and we separate 2 main groups. It's the E was the agro overpasses, the agriculture lands, the cropland average ratio was over 80%, and another group was the forest overpasses, when the forest cover was 50%. And you can see this is the agro overpasses with 3 main subgroup, and the forest is one of the forest overpasses is connected to the one side is forest, another side is agricultural land, and this type is this type, and this type is when the two sides is the same, but it's the mixed habitat, and the last one is the forest overpasses. In each side is forest. It was the lowest number. This overpasses. In conclusion, we found this publication. We use the same method as they. We can say that the Hungarian overpasses is more smaller, have a smaller movement corridors, and more longer than European or North American passes. I think the straight design is not so good for the animals, because when they arrived, the two side wall is too high, and sometimes we use this high ramps, and it's not so good. The average value of movement corridors is connected to the vegetation's only screening, because that is the lowest the number, because they use the 3 or 4 meter big green vegetation, and the movement corridor is very small. And the other problems, the high percentage of crossing with straight design, this screening, because the animals must they move more than they arrived at straight. And the last one is problem for too high of ratio of agro overpasses, because this area is affected only for roe deer. And I think the roe deer don't need these expensive big constructions. Maybe they need it will be enough underpasses with the rivers and the roads, and these expensive overpasses will be much better to build in forested area, where it's red deer and white boar is common. And thank you for your attention.
So thank you for your presentation. Do we have any questions? Yes.
Thank you for your presentation. I would like to ask you, have you monitored all of these? Have you monitoring of all these passages, or some of them?
Yes, we monitoring a lot of these passages, not all, but we have some data. We have a poster about 4 overpasses with camera trapping, and we have a lot of data, but it shows the same overpasses which are near to urban areas or another roads. It's used less than the forested ones.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions?
Thank you for your nice presentation. In one of the first slides, where you showed the 57, I think, ecoducts in Hungary.
Yes.
It seems that they are, in some regions, they are very close to each other.
Yes.
Is that true? And what's the distance then between
you talk about this one?
This one and the Balaton,
yes.
This region also.
Sometimes there is between 10 kilometer distance. I think it's not so good. I take it somewhere there.
It was difficult to see.
If it's possible to delete someone, I delete it. irritated because it's here and here it's more important. But this is a new good things because this is the newest highways, and they get much more for the biodiversity. But the other stage is not effectively.
Thank you.
So if you have no more questions, so I would like to invite the next speaker, Jörg Fabian from Sweden.
So, yeah, thanks. I'm Fabian Knufinke. Actually, I'm from Vienna, not from Sweden. But the study I conducted was in Sweden. Yep, doesn't matter. And with colleagues from Sweden and Germany too. And I'm going to talk about the human influence on the usage of ungulates of crossing structures, because we were talking about crossing structures all the time, how to design them, and I guess a lot of you visited crossing structures yesterday, but I don't know how many people think about what is it actually doing when we are on the crossing structures. And those results are not published yet, but being prepared. So I would be keen if you don't publish them on social media or so. So yeah, the problem is as often we, what is it? Yeah, I will just talk. So the problem is as often we as humans, and we have a high influence on behavior of animals, especially the nocturnality. So animals shift their time pattern when they do something or where they are able to do anything. And that has a high influence on the animals. And that, of course, also is effect on crossing structures. So there's a quite recent study on the, the detection probability of mule deer in North America. And they showed that there is for once a variation between seasons. So there's the cool season and the warm season. And you see there's a variation in the number of mule deer using the structure. But there's also a difference between absent recreationists and present recreationists. So humans have influence on the usage of ungulates of those crossing structures, and that is, of course, very important to keep in mind when we evaluate the effectiveness. So the initial situation for that, and I think that's generally there's different types of crossing structures, you could say. So there's crossing structures that were initially built for wildlife, where we would say, okay, wildlife should use it. There is structures that were built for co-usage. So we say, okay, that's a structure, wildlife should use it, but humans should also use it. And there are some structures like, just a road overpass that wildlife is using, but where it was not originally like planned that wildlife used them. And that brings us to very different effects of the human usage. And there are studies that show a decreased animal usage. There are studies that show a consistent animal usage or even an increased animal usage of those structures when humans are present or when human activity is varying. So now to our study. We did a study in Sweden at 18 different crossing structures at a gradient over nearly all over Sweden. That's nearly 12,050 kilometers gradient. We had 3 years of sampling in total, of which not every crossing structure was covered all the time. So that's just the whole time frame for all the structures. And we used that to answer the question if the human usage is influencing the ungulates usage, and if yes, are there any particular human activities that are posing a bigger disturbance than others? And we did that by looking at the diurnal activity patterns of the animals. So we used the so-called overlap plots to visualize and describe the activity patterns in the diurnal way. And we displayed that for the clock. So let's say our normal way to measure time, but also in relation to sun. Because we know that for animals and also in some cases for us humans, the sun is of course important, because forest workers, for example, would rather orient based on the sun than maybe on the clock time. And then we analyzed the time differences between consecutive crossing events by analyzing the latency. So I have to explain that a bit more. We did use camera traps on all these crossing structures. So we collected data on animals and on humans. Then we lumped together all these events in a time frame of 10 minutes to one event. So we'd say, okay, that's one event because we don't know if they are independent of another. And then we took the time from one event to the foregoing event. So let's say I'm on the crossing structure at 11 p.m. and a roadie is coming 1 hour later at 12 p.m. Then this latency between my crossing and the roadie crossing would be 1 hour. And we analyzed this by using generalized additive mixed models, used some different statistical clues. So we used cyclic splines to fit it and random intercepts for the structure IDs. So we said that every single crossing structure is believed to be different from another. And by that, we accounted for different architecture, different surrounding, and so on. And then we compared that model by model selection with Bayesian information criteria. So now the results. What you see here are those so-called overlap plots. These are the ones for moose. So we always have the black line, that's moose, and we have the dashed blue line, and that's human activities. On the left is the sun time, and on the right, the clock time. As you can see, the general pattern and the shape of the curve is the same, but of course, the sunrise is at different times of the day over the year, so there's a bit of a variation. So what do we see here? We see that if you compare the density, so the amount of or probability of animals being and humans being on the structure over the day is varying. And moose are especially active in the nighttime and crepuscular hours. So from midnight, then it's slowly a bit decreasing to sunrise, and there's lower activity over the day, and then it's rising again after sunset. Humans are showing more or less an opposite. So there is nearly no activity of humans during midnight and sunrise, and then after sunrise, it's rising. And then they are still active somewhere until midnight. If we would only look at the clock time, we would say, okay, humans are active, let's say, from 5 o'clock onwards. But we wouldn't know that it's not really the 5 o'clock, maybe is not the reason, but it's rather the sun. And if we look at the same for roadie, we can see a bit more distinctive pattern. So roadie are also active primarily in the nighttime and crepuscular hours. You can see some smaller or bigger peaks, especially here, that one, around sunrise, and then roadie activity is dropping. So there's very little roadie activity somewhere between sunrise and noon when human activity is rising. As you can see here, roadie activity is at its peak, and then human activity is rising and roadie activity is sinking. So there is some type of temporal segregation, so they are not as active as the same time as they, I would say, could be. So that's one thing, that's the diurnal activity patterns, but that does not tell us that much about the interaction between both. Because we only see, okay, that's when roadie are active, that's when humans are active, but we don't know why or what is it doing. So we looked at the latency, so the time difference between those events. The model selection came out with that model formula, and I'm going to explain that to you quickly. So we used the log transformed latency to meet statistical standards. We log transformed that. We used the aggregated human activities, so we did not divide by human activity. So if it's a car or if it's a bicyclist, we just said it was a human. We used the ungulate species, so in that case, was it moose or roe-deer? The previous activity, so if the activity was a moose, what was the previous person, or so was the previous an ungulate or a human? The sun time, the ordinal date, so we just counted the over the year, and the 1st of January is day 1. Then interactions between the ungulate species and the date to see is there any variation over the year. When we look at the different species, and then some interactions of the sun timing and the previous activity, and again the structure ID, so is there any particular influence by one specific crossing structure, so underpass or overpass or green bridge. So now, maybe a bit lame for some of you, that's the results of the model. I've depicted here the different factor levels and color-coded them so that they're a bit easier to understand. So roe-deer is pink, human red, moose yellow, and ungulates are gray. And what we see here is that there is a highly significant influence on the latency of the ungulate species. So that what's compared here in these columns is how are those variables affecting the latency of moose and roe-deer. And what we see here is that if the previous activity on the crossing structure was a human, then it increases, that's what we see here, highly significant, the latency. So if a human was on the structure, the next ungulate will be significantly later using the structure. We checked for those different temporal variables, so there was some influence by the date, so some variation over the year, and that was particularly shown in roe-deer. There was influence by the sun time and an interaction with the previous ungulate, so depending when it was on the day, then it interacted with the previous ungulate species. And the same for the sun time, but humans. So there was a variation over the day of the human influence. So it does matter if the human uses the crossing structure in the morning or in the night hours. And yeah, also some influence by also some variation over the year by the human usage. And again, the structure ID, so the individual crossing structures were important, so there is highly significant variation in the quality, you could say, of the crossing structures, and that's how it looks like graphically. So what I did here is I plotted for you the ungulate latency over the year, over the day, sorry. So that's again midnight, sunrise, noon, sunset, and midnight at winter solstice, so 21st of December. I used that because it's plotted against sun time, so it does somehow make sense to use that date, and I needed any date. And at the left side, you can see moose, and here you can see roe-deer, and that's the latency in hours. So not log transformed anymore, but in hours, so that it's somehow useful for you and me. And what do we see? We see that there are two different event types. So either the previous event was an ungulate, then it's pink, or it was a human, then it's blue. And we see that the latency is varying over the day. So it's rising and then sinking again and rising again. And here the same, and also the same for roe-deer. But what does it tell us? It tells us that if the moose is shortly, let's say here at sunrise, and uses the crossing structure, then the latency, so the time difference that this moose comes after another either moose or human is dependent if it's a human or a moose. If the previous event was a human, then the moose takes 25 hours. But when the previous event was a moose, or not only a moose, but an ungulate species, then it's 3 hours. So we have a time difference at sunrise of about 21 hours. So if humans use the structure, then this will extend the period that the next moose will come by 21 hours. That's at sunrise, and then it's changing over the day. So it's even reversed at sunset, because then it takes longer time for one moose to come after an ungulate at sunset. So it takes about 4 hours, and the same pattern is seen in roe deer, but with slightly different timings. So the extent is even more, is even stronger. So they take longer time at sunrise, but shorter time different at sunset. And now I have to hurry up. So what does it tell us? It tells us that we have an urge to evaluate the efficacy of wildlife crossing structures, especially to human usage, because there is seasonal and diurnal dependencies of the disturbance effects, and there is variation. So crossing structures are not as good all over the year. Human disturbance can be a limiting factor. So maybe we build the structure and we think, yeah, there's ungulates using it, that's good. Maybe not. And this temporal variability is also prohibiting the one-size-fits-all approach, because there is the dependency of the different crossing structures and they have a different effect. And therefore, we need to define the functions and the aim of these structures, because otherwise we cannot say, is it working or is it not? Because if we don't have a threshold, if we don't have a goal, we don't know if we can meet it. And that's especially important due to the sizes and the costs of the crossing structures, as you all know, because if you say, yeah, that 100,000 euro culvert is not working, then it's a less gain loss than if this big ecoduct isn't working. So the take-home messages and take-home questions also in a way here are that ungulates are disturbed by human activities, and the highest effect is at sunrise, and due to the variation over the year. In wintertime, there is a delayed ungulate usage after human usage. Doesn't matter if it's a pedestrian or whatever, also maintenance workers or us. And therefore, we have to ask ourselves the questions: what's the aim of the structure? Which functions should it have in a regional or landscape context? And how much disturbance is therefore acceptable to be sufficient for the aim? Because we want to measure it and it should be effective. And also, how should the animals perceive the structure and what behaviors should they do? Should they sleep on the structure, mate on the structure? Should they see it as part of the habitat, or should it only be a corridor where they're just running over and that's it? That's questions that we have to ask to ourselves. So thanks for listening, and thanks to all my great co-workers, of which all except for Lucas are here at the conference. And thank you. I'm open for questions.
Thank you. Yeah, more questions.
One quick question. Oops. Yes, I wanted to ask you if you have made a control.
For what?
Do you have a control site without human?
No.
Is it possible?
It's all crossing structures with both, but to my opinion, it's not needed to have a control site, because I am or at least partially not needed, because I am comparing those events on the same side when there was a human compared to an ungulate. So it's replicating on the same side, because if I would have control sites, I think there would be so much noise due to the differences of the sides that it might not be useful. Yeah, that's could of course be that the pattern could change, yeah. The time-wise pattern, but that was not the goal really in this study.
I would ask you if there are days without human activity, and would it make sense to filter it and to see it if the traffic of animal movement is higher, or is this possible?
So yes, I think it would be possible to filter it for those days where there's no either no animal activity or no human activity. But yes, yeah, so it would be possible. I'm unsure what it would tell us, because yeah, there is some variation over the year, and it's important to cover that.
Great talk. Two questions. One is, I understand correctly, one man, no roe deer or no moose for 20 something years, right? Something like that.
Yes.
And so the question is, can you then assess for what is the, so can you basically give guidelines to say, well, if you build a bridge or if you have a bridge, more than so many people use this. So to kind of quantify what is the usefulness of a bridge.
Yeah,
then,
okay. Yeah. I think it's difficult to quantify that because, as we see here, it's extremely dependent on the time of the day and the time of the year. So if there's human activity at sunrise, please don't do that. Please don't go on the crossing structures at sunrise. Do it at sunset. Doesn't really matter. So there's a very high variation in the effect when you're using the crossing structure. So maybe I could somehow get a number of humans, but I think it's not useful due to that temporal variation. And also over the year, because we saw that there's high effects in wintertime than summertime.
I think we think of it, but the point is that I think that it would be very useful to think about. I mean, that's the management implication. When does it stop working? So I think there could be ways to go along. And the second question was like, have you, if you didn't present it here, but the habituation issue. So the point is, in areas where you have like in region, rather than the crossing structure, where you have a higher density of human, higher density of roads, so just an index of disturbance in the broader region, do the in the same way. So I would have liked to see an analysis of the variation across the different things, given the cumulative disturbance.
Yeah, so I did not look at that explicitly, but rather implicitly due to the random effect for the crossing structure. So it's somehow accounted for that in the statistical analysis, but I can't tell you the specific effect. But that's a good point.
Counting it is about explicitly looking at that.
Yeah.
So do they get habituated if there's more people around all the time? So not accounting for it like you did. That was very interesting.
Yeah.
But another thing to look into could be to look into, well, what do they do? If there's a lot of humans, they kind of disappear this road there. They get used to it.
Yeah.
So there's probably a nonlinear behavior there to be checked.
Yeah, good point. Thank you. Sorry? Yeah, in general, more data would be good in any case, I guess. Yeah. So,
no more question. I have just one quick question or just observation. In the Czech Republic, we have one aqueduct, and it's very highly used by humans. And I didn't evaluate the data in statistics, but what I can see, the gap between the roe deer and the humans, it's just like no gap, because the roe deer just waiting for at least a minute or two just to run away, run across the aqueduct. So that's correlating to the question that in more human influence areas, it can be different because of the habituation.
Yeah, I guess that's true, but yeah, definitely. However, I think we have to keep in mind it might be different individuals. So if that's a resident roe deer, doesn't matter. If it's migrating one, if it's one that's dispersing, maybe that's the one that's waiting for 26 hours. Just maybe. So I don't want to steal the time from the next speaker.
It's next one is me, so it's
okay. If you say that's okay, then
one more question.
I wonder if you could see any difference between bridges where there were dense with people, like close to cities, or those who were remote. But I think if the road or other animals could adapt to people and got a different
Yeah, so
behavior.
I did not look into that specifically, but yeah, it's again a good point for the habituation. Yes.
So, thank you. I would like to invite the next speaker. That's me. So, and yep. Yep. So I would like to present you partly results from our project. It's focused on monitoring of Czech ecoducts. We have we had a little celebration this year because we have 25 years from building of first ecoduct. You can see it here in these pictures. It's a first built wildlife structure also in Czech Republic, and it's only one ecoduct in Czech Republic which has a planted forest habitat on it. You can see the differences. This is me 20 years ago when I started to monitor this ecoduct, and this is the actual site or actual tree I found it. So it's already overgrown me quite a lot. Since then, we built more aqueduct. In 5 years, we would have about 50 aqueducts in Czech Republic, as at least that I know that they will be built. So we were quite busy. Yesterday, you could visit some of those on our excursion. Just info for those of you who visited some aqueducts. I checked pictures from camera traps from this morning, and some of you I asked if you can leave so much human sense on an aqueduct, so to see some differences. So I couldn't see just for just basically look from looking to the pictures. There's no difference between the density of crossing by animals. They just were fine. We left at 3 and they were there at sunset. So even with this group of people, there was no difference. But well, as someone could said, it could be as your colleague said, it could be the local road deer, so they are quite used to that. So during this year, 25 years, there was a lot of questions if the structures are effective because they are quite expensive. So there was questions about if they are placed on the right migration corridors, if they are right size or right design and vegetation, if they have a right management. In some cases, local farmers just use the grass on the aqueduct for they collect it and use it for their cows, so it destroys the habitats or destroys the covers for small mammals. And of course, we would like to know what's the impact of human activities, because all of the aqueducts what we monitor are highly used by locals. And of course, we would like to know if the animals which are using the aqueducts are locals or if it's kind of a long distance migration. And also the last, we would like to know if the spectrum of them animal species are what are spectrum of animal species are using the aqueduct, and if there is a key species present on this aqueduct. This is the one picture from one aqueduct from camera trap. I don't know what they are, what they were doing there. Just make fun. So in 2002 we started a long-term project of monitoring all Czech aqueducts. So we would end with my colleagues. So we would finish in 2026. So we would have at least 3 monitoring season for our results. project goals are evaluation of functionality of aqueduct, and the second goal is evaluation of wildlife deterrence. But I'm going to speak only about aqueducts effectivity. Main inputs from this project will be the evaluation, and then also the creating the public database of fauna passages, because nowadays we don't have any, and it's a big problem for coordination in building of motorways and railways and special planning, because special planners don't have any clue where these fauna passages are, and if they have to limit the usage of the landscape according to this fauna passages. So first, the main method for collection of data is camera trap monitoring. We use 3G cameras, 1 or 3 per every aqueduct, depend of the size and possibility of the monitoring. And you can see here we are quite busy with the data. The data are sent to our database by email, and this database, it's we use it. One reason it's for camera maintenance. Each camera sends every morning the message about the battery life, capacity of camera of the card, so we can check it and plan the service. And the second thing is the recording of the evaluation of records, which is done manually in this form, where we identify species, the behavior, direction, and number of individuals. Hello. Can you turn off your mic or? So in this form, that's the behavior. We identify behavior because we would like to know if there is any difference when the animal is approaching the aqueduct and when it's leaving. Because in some of those aqueducts there is a nice cover, it's safe area, but some aqueducts are open, and we can see in pictures that the animals are behaving differently. And then the next part of our project is field survey. So we monitored all the animal paths around the aqueduct, and this is one of the path. It looks like a human path, but it's from animals. And we also check the condition of the aqueduct, sizes, and other ecology conditions and disturbances around the aqueduct. These are the results from last year. As you can see, it's totally according to population density or population numbers of our animals. And we are surprised it's quite a lot of humans, because all the aqueducts are, as I said, it's hardly used by the human. And we wanted also capture some larger mammals, like a wolf, lynx, or moose. Last year there was any, but this year we have a one wolf first captures on one aqueduct. So that's a good results for us from this year. Here you can compare the distribution of the animals and all the numbers on each aqueduct. As you can see, it's a big difference. One difference, it's not in all aqueducts. We started the monitoring in the beginning of 2023. So there are no data from. And in some aqueduct, we lost the cameras because of the thief. And you can see this big skyscraper. I will talk about this later, why it's so different from the others. Now, so here you can see the annual migration dynamic for roe deer. This is 8 different aqueducts, and if I add this colorful pizzas, it's a land use around this aqueduct. It's a 1 kilometer buffer, and here you can see what the colors are. So basically, what it shows for us that when this aqueduct it's placed, for example, here the top right one, in agricultural land. It's and there was no attractive crop for this roe deer in the year, so the numbers were lower in spring and summer. But after the plants were cropped, only the grass around the road and on the aqueducts stays there as a food source. So that's why there is a peak. All roadies from all areas were gathering on the aqueduct and graze there because there was just only food source. Something similar happens here, and it's these two bottoms ones. It's totally different. It's just a spring and early summer migration, and we think it's because there's a forest area, so the roe deer stays there for the winter, and then they just spread into the country. And this one, it's this skyscraper. This is a forest area, but it ends in the industrial and urban area. But the local game pickers feed the game here on the other side of the aqueduct. So this peak means that all animals goes there for 1 month or 2 months in winter, and they just use the food from game keepers. So that's the why that the peak is so high, and we have to delete this this aqueduct from our statistic because it's influenced the data because it's so high. So here some comparison between the dimension and migration and intensity. The C index is the index of openness. So as you can see, it should be some kind of linear or at least some kind of depends. Better the index is, the higher intensity it should be. But what we found, it's more depend on the location of the aqueduct for the roe deer. These two aqueducts are, I have to be quicker. These aqueducts are new, so they are not very well connected. These are also new, but they are influenced by deforestation. These are in forests, so we can see some progress. What is interesting, this in the middle, it's the aqueduct that I started monitor in university 20 years ago, and I monitor it as a hobby, so it's not very extensive. And I always thought it's the best one in Czech Republic. But after I, collected more data and did some statistic, it shows me that it's completely average. So it's just a nice discovery for me that my opinion can be very subjective, even because I was in the risk aqueduct for so long. And this one is agriculture, so there are no differences in last year between the size and number of records. And this is the game pickers keep feeding, so it's totally different. Here you can see the difference between the oldest one aqueduct on the top and one of the newest on the bottom. And here you can see the annual. This is start of the year and end of the year, and the time of day. And these two lines represent the sunrise and sunset. So it's not very statistical, but you can see the differences and the distribution of all animals. There is a legend. So it's just nice to look that there could be some interaction between humans and animals, and here also. But this is new aqueduct, so we will see what next years will shows. So what is next in our project? We have to collect more data and evaluate a lot of camera trap photos, which is frustrating because it's done by humans. Then we would like to do some molecular analysis to connect all the dots and find out what is the main reason for aqueduct to be effective or not. So thank you for all your presentation, because you are already helping me with this project a lot. Someone put your presentation in a good place, in good season. And so then we will evaluate the Ecoducts functionality, and we're going to do a good job. So thank you for your attention. Any questions?
It's more a comment. I really enjoy the way you put a buffer and looked at the broader habitat around the aqueduct. And I would even be curious to see the results for different type of buffers at different scales, because I would guess that it would give you different results at different scales, and you would understand better the ecology of the different species. Do the same analysis, so in a hierarchical way.
Yes, we are going to do that. Like a buffer 100 meters, 1 kilometers, 5 kilometers, because it's going to show, like, we would like to create some kind of landscape useness index. I don't know how to call it, and look at it, how it's changing farther and farther from aqueduct, because it can show that, okay, the aqueduct is great on a great place on a local level, but on the wrong place on a large scale level. So we are going to do that and try to put it in our analysis.
Plastic and even species specific.
Yeah, of course, it will be species specific. Yeah, that's.
Thank you. Okay. Good morning. I am Eric Guinard from Cerema, France. I'm a project manager involved in ecology and I'd say linear transport infrastructure. And I want to introduce you and show you the France's new Fauna passages database. It's a need. We have seen this morning that it's a need in some countries. It was a need for us too. And it was a step towards the standardization of fauna passages monitoring. So, to explain the global context leading to the creation of SIPAF, in response to the fragmentation caused by the linear infrastructure into the European policy of defragmentation, France's tram vert bleu, which means green and blue ecological networks, policy takes ecological into account. Among other TVB actions, the French Ministry of Ecological Transition in 2018 decided the creation of a National Fauna Passages Database, which called SIPAF, Système d'Information Passage à Faune. And this year and next year, the PAF survey is carried out to position and describe all fauna passages in all linear transport infrastructure, road, railway, waterway, networks. So we hope a completion next year. We hope. Why SIPAF? It's a new tool for national, regional, and local authorities to identify priorities action and plan for RTI permeability for wildlife in their area, and to mitigate, for example, the spread of wildlife traffic mortality. And monitoring data centralization, for example, further research and studies, meta-analysis. And for LTI operators to ensure a better knowledge of their own fauna passages and facilitate the maintenance of their path assets and provide path position in other LTIs for their new project and water position where their new fauna passages, knowing their position of the others. It's already inside. So the governing board was the Ministry of Ecological Transition with Water and Biodiversity Bureau and Road Mobility Bureau. The technical coordination has been carried out by the CERMA. And the park national parks of Écran et Seven developed the software. They've made the software development. We had also a review committee, various stakeholders that are for consulting. We said all LTI, road, railway, waterway, which type of fauna passages. We use only we record only dedicated wildlife passages in first priority. All types, culverts, overpasses, small, large fauna, ramp, or waterways, except fish passages because they are in our database already. And adapted culvert and overpasses for the adapted stream fauna culverts for the adapted road fauna culvert and overpasses. In that case, also viaducts is important because it's a very good penalty generally for fauna. And in second priority, adapted culvert and overpasses with effective, which have been really monitored, fauna passage rule. The website content is structured around a central concept of passage à faune, which is contain all fixed parameters of fauna passages, its position, its type, size parameters, stakeholder, etc. And around concept of functionality, objective of fauna passage, concept of management for biodiversity, concept of media, concept of etc. They are plentiful of concepts. Here is the first page, and each fauna passage is going to real ID, and the SIPAF is based upon an adaptation of GeoNature, which is an existing open source software building blocks, and it's got a multifunction interface for data entry, centralization, management, consultation, filtering, export, and distribution. And data is available for the public. It's free. It's a EU-inspired directive, so it's free, except for a few passages which would be hidden or rare hidden because of sensitive species periods. And only LTI managers and some interest institutions can enter PAF data. We are only everybody can enter data because you could make problem. So the conclusion. There are limits, of course, in such database. Difficulties in mobilizing interior operators to register their own passages in CPF. You could say that some of them are lazy. We must motivate him, and so it's a long-term job. It implies heavy received data control also, and a hotline for operators. And there is some the main lessons and meaning the definition of the scheme's protocol need to be standardized. And a lot of path monitoring monitored with a lot of scheme shape, poor usability from meta-analysis, a lot of parameters to be analyzed together are needed in future studies. So we need to undertake standardization of path monitoring in France and of course in Europe. And why not? So please, we need you. We send you a message to constitute a working group around fauna passages monitoring. And should we go to a standardization to better have better data for more data and better data for analysis. Thank you very much. We have recorded for now 751. I've recorded the last one, and we hope having 1,300 fauna passages. So we have a long history. We have the first fauna passages in 1961, let's say, one of the first of the world. So we have a lot of job because some of them we don't even know where they're placed on it. We got to do research along the roads because they are forgotten, as I said, Margaret this morning. Thank you very much. Any question?
Thank you.
Thank you for addressing such important issues as standardizing. I'm interested in in how do you secure the data, the database. Can you tell us a bit how do you, on a long-term basis, secure that?
We hope we have been having control for a long time, and we hope we are governmental institution, so we're supposed to be long time alive in this world. So it's the first step, and I think the French ministry wanted to keep this database because it's also to send information how we reduce all this fragmentation to Europe, and so it's an important source of information for them to number and to have a knowledge of all fauna passages, even the state, but also department or other local authorities that contribute it. It's important information also for fragmentation global way.
I have a question. When you build a new fauna passage somewhere, who is responsible for adding this information about the new fauna passage in your database? And who and when? Like it's during the planning of the fauna passage or after the passage it's built and finished?
I would say during. Before it's difficult because it stops because of any problem of finance, funds, etc. We must be cautious and wait for its construction. And we hope pushing by some kind of policy to reach new fauna passages, especially for motorways and in national roads. Pushing legally the stakeholders to record their fauna passages. And some of them have compensation, and we may have a database for compensation sites, and so we have connection with the database also.
The reason why I ask, because our project, the one goal is also creating this kind of database. And in our country, between the planning of the fauna passage and finishing or realization, it can take quite a lot of time, like 15 years or 20 in some cases, the worst cases. So between this time, when the fauna passage is planned and it's like settled in environmental impact assessment, the landscape around this passage can change during these 15 years. So just we are thinking, or it's brainstorming that, well, after the passage, it's established in some kind of document. It should be put in a database as a planned structure. So the landscape around the passage couldn't change, like to get to the urban area or something like this. So it's just a,
yes, it's a strategy, but I would say that the most important fauna passages are, for instance, over ecoducts, and especially very culverts, very large culverts but these ones will be quickly recorded. I think next year we will have nearly all the fauna passages. So, but we intend to push to leave this information legally to all the municipalities of France and say, okay, you must take it into account in your lending strategy.
So thank you.
Thank
you. Question? Do we have some question in online in chat? I forget to ask. So we have some time.
The fact is that the small fauna passages are very numerous.
Okay, so
they're the most numerous. So 1,300. The majority would be small fauna passages, and there are less consideration in that.
I would like to invite the next speaker, Rita. The topic is similar from the database of fauna passage.
Hi, my name is Stefan Dornick. I work at the Federal Highway Research Institute in the field of sustainability, climate protection, and environmental protection. Today, I'd like to present a project which monitoring studies on wildlife passages were collected and analyzed. Finally, to evaluate the effectiveness of those wildlife passages. So let's dive into. The aim of the project is to identify monitoring studies from Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, bring them together and evaluate their results so that environmental road planning, construction, and operation processes can be optimized. A database will be set up containing all the studies. Important information is extracted from the studies, such as type, location, objective, design of the wildlife passages, as well as their integration into the landscape. And this information will be made available to a wide range of users. In Germany, this knowledge also will be used to improve the effectiveness of wildlife passages and also to update national guidelines. Yeah, I'd like to briefly explain the procedure. Firstly, a literature survey of existing monitoring studies was carried out. At the same time, various institutions were contacted and asked to answer a short questionnaire and also to provide existing monitoring studies. Sample data sheets were developed in order to be able to extract and process the information of the studies in a standardized way. As I mentioned before, a knowledge database was set up and the collected and processed data should be visualized in a map. Okay, now some results. 128 institutions were surveyed, 96 monitoring studies from the years 1969 till 2023 were collected. And the studies described the monitoring of 570 passages, round about 500 in Germany, 24 in Austria, and 48 in Switzerland. And passages can be separated in 116 overpasses, 323 underpasses, and 131 multi-use passages that are passages which are upgraded and co-used from wildlife. And we had information about 25 passages with that are those with bundling of transport infrastructure, 11 road bundlings, and 14 railway bundlings. The data, the extracted data is categorized, now shown on this slide. Firstly, we have extracted data from the study itself, like title, author, year, location, and so on. And then we extracted information about the passages itself, geo-coordinates, road category, railway category, building name, building ID, year of construction, and so on. And then information about the monitoring. And this is also where the basis for displaying the results from the studies takes place. some results about the analysis. This slide shows the monitored taxa. We're focused on the collected monitorings, and the x-axis shows the monitored passages, and the y-axis shows the taxa itself. And as you clearly can recognize, most monitorings were focused on large, medium-sized mammals, bats, amphibians, and small mammals. Data on the monitoring methods or the prevalence of monitoring methods were also extracted and processed. Here we see methods listed and categorized, and the category which the method is assigned to. The 4 categories are on the left side. And it is noticeable that the majority of monitoring activities relate to the direct survey of target species and the detection of animal tracks. Emphasis is also placed on checking the technical equipment, and for fewer studies focus on analyzing the flora and the passages. Now some information about the type of monitoring. The majority of passages are analyzed once at a specific point in time using a cross-sectional study. Here, particular emphasis is placed on analyzing the presence of target species on the passage. Then we have cohort studies that multiple passages are analyzed at several points in time, and the studies mostly carried out before construction of the passage and also afterwards. And in some cases, different passages are also compared with each other. Less frequently, we find pure suitability studies in which the focus of the investigation is more on examining the technical conditions of a passage. The above shown and other results should be visualized in a map. Please note that this is an ongoing project, so not all analyses or parts of the project have been completed at this moment. So that's why I'm using here an example from a similar application. The map will show here Germany, and in each case, the number of passages are built up and are shown in the dots. And if you the dot is standing for each federal state in Germany. And if you zoom into the map, you can call up the individual passages, and in a pop-up menu or tooltip, you can display the information and the extracted data about each wildlife passage. And the studies for which whether the Federal Highway Research Institute have been granted publication rights can be downloaded here. So finally, we want to provide the information to a wide range of users. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for the presentation. So any questions? Not? I would like to invite the last presentation. Presenter. Sorry, I couldn't pronounce it, so.
Hello everyone, I'm Kyun Kim from the National Institute of Ecology in South Korea. I'm delighted to be here today to present on evaluation of wildlife crossing structures in South Korea. Before we begin, I would like to thank everyone for taking the time to attend this session. Now, I will start the presentation. In 2022, concerns were raised about the lack of management of wildlife crossing structures in South Korea. Wildlife fences and noise barriers have been damaged, and wildlife crossing structures are not functioning properly. Therefore, we started research to understand the status and issue of these structures and to work on their improvement. First, the road density in South Korea is 1.15 kilometers per square kilometer. This means that South Korea ranks 17 among OECD countries and has a high road density relative to its land area. The habitat ranges of the wildlife species commonly found in South Korea are as follows. This indicates that wildlife in South Korea lives in close proximity to roads. In 2023, 79,278 roadkill incidents were recorded in South Korea. This is not a small number, especially for a country with a small land area like South Korea. These are the recorded results, and the actual number is expected to be higher. In South Korea, a total of 564 wildlife crossing structures have been constructed from 1998 to 2023 to restore fragmented ecological corridors and reduce roadkill. We investigated whether these structures comply with the guidelines for design and management of wildlife crossing structures in Korea. We evaluated overpasses based on 9 criteria and underpasses based on 8 criteria. The common evaluation criteria for wildlife crossing structures are as follows. For overpasses, the evaluation criteria include whether the width is 30 meters or more and whether noise barriers are installed. For underpasses, the evaluation criteria is whether the openness is 0.7 or more. The survey results showed that there are 366 overpasses and 198 underpasses in South Korea. Wildlife crossing structures in South Korea by government agency are as follows, and wildlife crossing structures in South Korea by road type are as follows. Compliance rates for overpasses and underpasses are as follows. For overpasses, compliance rate with topographical connectivity was the highest, while compliance rate with wild fence management was the lowest. For underpasses, compliance rate with bidirectional wildlife fence installation was the highest, while compliance rate with tunnel openness and wildlife fence management was the lowest. Overall, the compliance rate with guideline was 41.1% overpasses and 38.3% for underpasses. Compliance rates by government agency are as follows. The Korean National Park Service shows the highest compliance rate, while local governments have the lowest. Compliance rate by road type are as follows. Expressway have the highest compliant rate, while other laws have the lowest compliance rate. At the end of 2023, based on the survey report, improvement measures were requested from each government agency. Currently, each agency is making effort to install and improve facilities for wildlife crossing structures. We are assisting these agencies with the management of wildlife crossing structures and actively providing guidance on necessary improvements. This concludes my presentation on evaluation of wildlife crossing structures in South Korea. I hope you found the content informative and valuable. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay, if not, I would like to thank you for all you to be here and to have excellent question, excellent topic, excellent presentation. And if you like to discuss anything, I would like to invite you to our exhibition site in ABH project, which is here in conference. You can taste there some local drinks and have some, cultural background to your visit in Czech Republic. So you are all welcome to have a taste. It's alcohol, just to be clear. So thank you for all of you.